Welcome back to The Watch, and if you're wondering why I'm in such strange surroundings and the audio might not be great, I'm traveling. But even traveling, I'm not going to be missing out on this because the time is upon us. Wheel of Time, Season 2. I've just watched Episode 1, and yeah, you might say I have some thoughts. Just a couple. But I'm not alone. I'm actually joined by my lovely wife, the lady. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. I was actually wondering if you'd remember that I was here. You have a lot of thoughts for the Wheel of Time.
Absolutely. No, you've watched the whole episode as well.
I did, yes. We watched them separately. Shad tends to pause a lot to take notes and have thoughts. And we found, especially through, say, The Rings of Power and often through Wheel of Time, I would finish way before. But this time we actually finished at a very similar time. So I must have had similar thoughts.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen, we've reviewed all the episodes of Season 1 with a season recap, I believe. And I went into Season 1 with as much good faith as possible. I was going to give it every benefit of the doubt. And it burnt me. It burnt me so bad and I was so frustrated. And so going into Season 2, I did not have, I guess, good expectations, but I was willing to give, I'll give it a chance if it's good, you know? And so I guess overall thoughts on the episode, and then we're going to go through a chronological breakdown of the episode. We'll even bring up scenes from the show and go through the whole thing. This is just the first episode. We'll be doing episode 2 and 3. Don't worry, I know they'll come out all together. And hopefully there'll just be a day break in between 2 and 3. And so, surface level thoughts. I do need to try and approach this with what I think someone who is unfamiliar with the books would think of this show versus someone who is familiar with the books. Do you have any thoughts on that, my dear?
Well, we kind of start off at a different point than the books already.
Yes.
Because we've got Perrin and Loyal off doing their own thing, whereas previously they had Rand and Matt with them. Mm-hmm. And Matt is now currently been left behind. That's where we've left off Season 1.
Could I interrupt? Before we go into the specifics of the episode, do you think someone who is unfamiliar with Wheel of Time could have enjoyed this episode just by itself on its own merits?
Well, without any basis, it kind of is a nothing episode.
Yes! I found it extremely boring. I was actually feeling tired. I was yawning through this episode. And if you come in, you would expect everyone to have at least watched Season 1, but if they haven't watched it, they're just going to feel lost. Who are these characters? And the characters are not endearing. They don't make you interested in them just on the merits of what they do in this episode. And then if you come into it with the baggage of Season 1, you'll probably hate these characters because the characters are pretty awful. They're all just moody, entitled, and selfish, or cowards, right? From how they're shown in Season 1, which is such a great portrayal of the characters of the book. But even if you didn't know of that portrayal, you wouldn't like these characters because they're not that great. And this episode does nothing to improve that. And then it's just really boring with a bit of an action scene at the end, and that action scene doesn't make sense. It makes Moraine, yes, she gets defeated, but she does something in this episode which made me flip out. And I'm going to flip out when we get to it. And so
we will come to that.
We will come to that. And so if people just want action to try and make it more interesting, they have that at the end of the episode. Everything that brings us there is bland and boring with uninteresting characters. And just for normies, I think this will be a very flat show. But then, oh boy, when you take into the perspective of someone who loves the books, like myself and my wife here, this show continues to insult the source material and shows in such a key... They fundamentally do not understand this series, this books, or the characters. There are so many massive contradictions of characters, things characters are doing that they would never bloody do, and then also achieving things that they have no right or ability to do because it's not what their characters, not what they train, or anything like that. That is full of it. And Nynaeve, Perrin, definitely Moraine.
Lan.
Oh,
Egwene.
Lan.
They're just all out of character. They've got the same names, but they don't act like themselves.
These are imposters, you know, people wearing skin suits trying to say, oh, we're the property you love, look at us, aren't we? No, this is not the Wheel of Time, right? These are not the characters, and just like they showed in season 1, not only does it fundamentally not understand the meaning, the message, the plots, the world building, all this stuff, right, that underpins and holds up this series, you also sense the disdain it has for certain elements, like in season 1, where they actively avoided mentioning that the power has 2 gendered sides, where women draw from women draw from one side of the power and men draw from the other side. That is so fundamental in the Wheel of Time world building, and they actively avoid it because it's problematic. Oh dear, that enforces a gender binary. We can't have that. They actively remind you of this avoidance in the preview to this episode, where they say, this power wasn't there. It's the line from Leandrin. But why do you think they picked that line from Leandrin, all right? Because that's one of the more fundamental world-building lines that they've given in the show. And you might say, this is a I was thinking this is probably from Leandrin's perspective, and she would perceive it as this type of way. But then this is really the only repeated kind of line that they're sharing about how this power works, and it's Leandrin saying, this power wasn't meant for you. Men make the power filthy when they touch it. And again, disdain for the source material, and we're going to see that again because, oh my gosh, you can't have these female characters show weakness or incompetence in certain areas, especially those areas that men might excel in, like say, fighting with a sword. That one's an interesting one, because I mean, in the books, it's pretty clear. The girls, they're not that great fighting with hand-to-hand. They're girls. And so they get huge amounts of power from the magic, all right? But in this episode, oh, no. Like even without the magic, I need to come out and say it. Like, I'm sure you don't care about spoilers, but it's the biggest, what the bloody hell are you doing in this episode? Moraine, she is stilled. She isn't shielded. She actually has been cut off from the power, right? And so she has no power, and she kills a Fade in this episode, right? Moraine. Lan should have trouble killing a Fade. These things are really dangerous and really tough, right? And Moraine kills it just by stabbing it in its jaw. The blade didn't even go into the brain, and it died. And I'm like, these things still fight when you decapitate them, and you're telling me you just killed it by stabbing it in the flipping jaw? It was such bullcrap. No way Moraine would be able to do that, right? But I mean, you know, like, she is so amazing. Not only amazing, did you get, like, if you watch this episode, well, you have, of course, you've seen this episode. If you knew nothing about Wheel of Time, who would you think would be the main character from this episode?
Oh, definitely you'd be saying Moraine's got the majority of the screen time, and then Nynaeve and Egwene would be the next ones, because those are the main ones that get screen time.
Yep, and they are presented as being the most important, the most powerful. Like, there are, again, so many lines, especially about Nynaeve, like, you are, you know, going to be the greatest weapon against the shadow that we have. You are so important. You're so crucial. All this stuff like that. Perrin is just looking for a horn, and Matt is locked away in a dungeon being tortured by a red sister. So, and Rand, they show a single, like, was it a 5-second glimpse of him hanging a lantern? And that's it. That's his presence in the whole episode. Rand! Okay? I suspect that the next episode is probably going to be mostly focused on Rand, but still, you can see what they're doing. This is the first episode of the second season, and so this is an establishing episode, setting the tone, you could say. And yeah, it really goes to show you that they haven't learned a thing from season 1. This is the girl show, okay? It's all about the girl characters. All the male characters, which are the main characters of the book series, are sidelined, made less important, less competent, and the most important character of all is basically ignored. I couldn't believe it. Like the opening scene, like establishing shot of the episode after it has the kind of prequel thing with the dark people in the council. I was thinking, well, surely you would be wanting to see what Rand is doing. He said he's going off on his own, pretending that he's dead. Everything you would want to, like, that was what I was most interested in. Fool me, right? Now, of course, the first primary character we see in this episode is Moraine, not Rand. In fact, literally we barely see Rand, like a tiny glimpse in this whole bloody episode. And so it's all the same. It's all the same as season 1, and it is a absolute disgrace to the Wheel of Time TV show. It has this level of disdain for it. It's made by a man, and I'm sure there are some people that are actually competent working on this show, but the results are not that. So whoever is in charge, Rafe Judkins, right? We can see the talent on display here, the storytelling capacity, and what's engaging us, and it is flat and boring. Contrast this to the opening of book 2, right? Where there's a lot of suspense because the Ummerlin is arriving. Like, oh my gosh, it's the flippin' Ummerlin. What are we gonna do? And Rand, there's a whole a few chapters of Rand trying to escape the city, and his Taviran effect weaving him to just not be able to do it, and he's basically trapped and is trying to escape, and everything that he does to escape ends up leading him right into the Umberland where he has this confrontation and chat with her, and it's just got this great build-up. But even if that was going to take too long in the series, well, something really big happens at the start of the book, and of course they stole some of that for the end of season 1, where the horn and dagger get stolen, and there's this big thing, and then the suspense is, we've got to capture him, we've got to chase him, we've got to find him, and they run out and look, and so it comes out of the gate with massive interest, heaps of momentum, you're engaged, you're wondering what's happened. This episode is just people doing stuff. 6 months have passed. It was 5 or 6, but no, it was 5 months, I wrote it down. 5 full months have passed since the end of season 1, and everyone is just going through the motions of life. It is flat and boring and dull. And this is what happens when you change from the source material gave you a great template of how to just burst into this season with full, momentum and everything. But, the creators of this show, they know better. They think they can do better than Robert Jordan, an absolutely phenomenal writer, right? They're going to inject their own story and prop up the characters they think are more important. And this is the driveling crap that we get as a result. And so you could say I didn't like it.
Yes, I kind of got that impression.
Let's go into a scene-by-scene breakdown because I have notes.
Let's start with where they left off end of last season, because you can sometimes forget because they don't explain it to you. And so we've got Moraine, who no longer can touch the power. She's stilled. She's not cut off because it's already been specified that she can't even feel it anymore. But
not only that, sorry to interrupt, but the water bond is broken. That would only happen with instilling, okay? If she was just permanently shielded, the water bond would be in full place. So no, this is confirmation. She is fully cut off from the source. And this messes up so much, right? Moraine, even though she has less of a role to do in the
book 2,
and even book 3 to an extent, right? She still does really important stuff. And having her power is pivotal to many of the things she does. And so they're going to have to bullcrap a thing to give her power back. And there's going to be mild spoilers for the books, just because this is the nature of the review. I encourage you to read everything because I won't say how it happens or who does it, so there'll still be suspense about how this happens. But in the book series, they do figure out a way eventually, really difficultly, of how to heal someone and doesn't happen to everyone, but to give power back. Are they going to do that much sooner? They're just going to pull it out of their rear end? Someone's going to just do it? I was wondering if they were going to try and pull it off in this episode. And I was thinking, maybe if they had Moraine flatline, like she died and then came back, would that repair? Or would they do something like that? And I was wondering if that's what they were going to try and pull off at the end of the episode. And they very
well could in the next episode. They've kind of left it.
The power should not be able to bring people back from the dead. Of course, that's broken now because we saw that at the end of season 1 when not even Nynaeve should be if anyone is going to have such incredible healing ability, they could bring someone back from the dead, which still contradicts all such fundamental world building in the series. It should be Nynaeve. She is the epic, massive healing focused character, right?
Right. Egwene can't even heal a cut. She's got no healing ability.
She's really bad at healing in the books, and she brings Nynaeve back from the dead at the end of season 1. What? All right? But they have that. They have people, bring people back from the dead with the power. And so are they going to do that plot line where they'll have Moraine die and she'll come back alive, but because she died, the coming back alive also
resets magic
exactly.
or something. And so we've also got Randolph. He's told Moraine to tell everybody that he's dead. So they all assume he is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're mourning him. So he's not actively going to find the dagger and the horn. No, because the dagger isn't an issue in this. They haven't.
Does he even know it's stolen? Does Rand even know the dagger and horn is stolen?
No, he's left. He has no, the dagger's not stolen.
Oh.
Just the horn. The dagger was with Matt.
Well, no.
The dagger was with Matt. It did not go.
Padan Fane stole the dagger.
He was never at Tar Valon.
I was almost certain Padan Fane had the dagger and he stabbed Loyal with it. All right, we need to confirm because this is
pivotal of why they're chasing, because they would need Matt to help chase it if it was the dagger.
But by the way, who do we see dying here? Inktar and Uno. That's the dagger! That's the dagger! Padan Fane has the dagger and he just stabbed Loyal with it in the heart. I was pretty sure about it. So
Padan Fane has gotten the dagger somehow from Tar Valon and has stabbed Loyal, presumably
in the heart.
And Uno are down too because he's the main one there.
This is about, how incompetent they are in this show. Because the dagger, right, why is it so important if Loyal got stabbed with a dagger or not or anything like that? You're right, even if it wasn't the dagger from Shad Logoth, we just saw Loyal stabbed through the heart. But then you might be able to try and hand wave it, someone healed him, right? The dagger is toxic beyond belief. A single cut from this dagger, in the books, it shows it in the books, a single cut from this dagger causes black oozing pussy thing to grow over someone and they swell up and die in this black swollen lump. It is like got the most toxic type of poison on it, and that's from a single cut. Loyal just got stabbed in the heart with this thing. And so they clearly, the dagger's not lethal. It's
just a dagger.
Maybe it's magical properties that it can't kill anyone. Even when you stab someone in the heart, they're fine.
Wow, that was a great magical ability for a dagger.
Gosh. And so they just ignore it. They did such fundamentally stupid things at the end of season 1, and now they're just ignore that. Because when they introduce Loyal again, he's fine. Not a problem at all. Great way to build up stakes and suspense. Now, it was
and nobody's mentioned the dagger except to say Matt saying, I haven't touched it.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, that's where we left off from season 1 with some really, you'd be thinking, okay, so Loyal's dead, Uno and everyone, Moraine is still, it leaves off in a mess, a massive big mess. So much so that they just pretend certain things didn't happen. Okay? And we open to this building here. This is a nod to how book 2 kind of begins. There's a prologue where you see some dark friends meeting, basically. And they've decided they can do a better job than the books, right? We're going to have this odd little narrative of a little girl outside, a really important meeting of some of the most evil people in the world. Okay, why do you think they did this?
It's puzzling. I honestly sat there and went, why are we focused on a little girl not being scared of evil instead of the evil that's actually supposed to be happening in this meeting of their plans and what everybody's instructed to do?
Exactly. It would have been so much more interesting to actually, well, we hear only little bits in this meeting, but if they actually explored the meeting a bit more thoroughly from the books by not having the girl there. And they wanted to have this narrative about the Forsaken here saying that, I'm not a monster. And then, it's really dumb. So I'll get to the point that really makes me think what is going on. But the little girl sees Trollocs. Trollocs are just there, coming to eat her, basically. And so she runs away. Makes sense, all right? But then she runs into the meeting. This really secret, you would expect a guarded meeting. And she just runs in, no one stops her, and she goes over and they don't even stop the meeting at this point. They're just like, oh yeah, girl. And so I'm just thinking, this isn't reality. This isn't how people would naturally respond. Someone eventually does acknowledge her, but why have they ignored her up to this point? And then the lines that we do hear from this scene contradict what's in the book. The Forsaken flat out tells all the Dark Friends here that Rand al'Thor is the Dragon Reborn. Like in the original book, all they do is show them Matt, Perrin, and Rand and say, the Dark One wants to find these guys. Go look for them.
And you'll be given instructions, and some are instructed to presumably kill and some presumably to save.
Yeah. And like the fact that they're telling these Dark Friends that this is the Dragon Reborn, right? It doesn't work because, again, it breaks world-building elements. The Dragon Reborn is the most, holy crap, it's the bloody dragon. These Dark Friends would be flipping out. And so then there's this weird scene of him picking her up and talking about, monsters. People call me a monster, but they're not really monsters. And this next part, I was just like, bull crap. This girl was just running from her life, from a literal monster, right? I have children. I know what the stereotypical reaction for children would be in something like this. They'll be freaking out. You would have to drag this child to this thing. She would be scared out of her wits. And the fact that she's not is really odd. It doesn't feel realistic in any measure. Did you get the same impression?
Yeah, it was just, he's talking all calm. Presumably she doesn't really know much about him because he's kind of giving her a tiny bit of a backstory. Some people call me a monster. Do I look like a monster? Like, he's basically saying, people call me a monster. And she's not scared of him taking her to monsters.
Yeah. And then picks her up, gets her to even touch the thing's face. And, what are they, is this girl going to be important later on? I think she's never going to appear again.
Well, I think she appears later in one of the trailers.
Does she?
I think she comes up again in a scene with Perrin.
Then who is she?
I have no idea. She's not in the book. She's some random girl that appears twice in the trailer, and now she's appeared once here. So she's going to come back for an unknown reason.
Well, these writers, they clearly think they can do a better job than Robert Jordan. So instead of even adapting the source material, because usually they say they have to cut things from the books because there's not enough time to fit it all in. They're doing, this to me is one of the biggest insults, because no, they're cutting things from the book to put in new stuff that they're making up because they think they can do a better job. That's arrogance in the extreme in my mind. And so then we have the intro, establishing shot, and foolish me, I thought they might be showing us what Rand is doing.
No.
No, it's Moraine. And Moraine doing menial things because she doesn't have the power. She takes a bath. She tries to warm it with the power. She can't do it. And she's really sad and she's crying because it's the Moraine show.
Her carrying water was my first thing of, this isn't Moraine. She is a manipulator. She would have the warders carrying the water for her so she could have a bath.
Yeah, I think they're trying to show she's fallen from grace so far.
She is Kyrie-Ennen. They manipulate as easily as breathing.
And not only is she Kyrie-Ennen, she's in the royal line. She was in line to be the queen, and she actually ran away to avoid it. And so, yeah, even with her losing her power, though, having said that, there are some Aes Sedai who lose their power that come back to the Aes Sedai and they basically have to be servants. And so the thing is, this is where this show contradicts. It's she still calls herself an Aes Sedai. It's no. Well, that's a complete reversal of the books. In the books, if an Aes Sedai loses their power, they are not Aes Sedai. They are cast out. That's it. They're done, right? She still is treated like an Aes Sedai from other people, even other Aes Sedai, even having lost her powers. I was again, have you guys even read the books?
Yes, and they haven't even established that the whole stilling thing negates the lying thing with the oath rod.
Yes.
And so her calling herself Aes Sedai wouldn't really matter, but they haven't said that that's the case.
Yeah, because
she shouldn't be able to lie.
That should be a big revelation to her that now she's able to lie because she's cut off from the power. And when she gets the power back, she would need to take the oath again. But they're probably just going to pretend, that's still in place. She's off the power, but she's still do you see the amount of flippant disregard they have for the source material? These, you might think it's not important. It's actually very important. These plot points have significant impact in how the story progresses at certain points. And so throwing them away flippantly like they don't matter ruins certain arcs in the actual story that you're trying to tell. To have any care and consideration with what they're working with here. It's frustrating. And so she tries to weave it. She's sad. they've given so little reason for us to actually care about Moraine here, right? And so I'm not really feeling any connection, and they want the audience to feel bad for her. Like, who gives a stuff at this point? Lan is training with a shirt off. And even from this scene, I was thinking, why is he so emotional? Like, at least in the first season, they tried to make him stoic in between the moments where he broke down. Here, he's just breaking down like he's holding back tears here. And there's multiple like close-ups where he's just really frustrated. And look, see, he's like, oh, this is Lan. This is Lan having an emotional breakdown.
Yeah, this was not Lan. It happened through the whole episode. He would get mad. He would not trust Moraine. He would just act in every way that wasn't Lan. Because Lan was notorious for accepting whatever she did, except for very few circumstances. And those he wouldn't even fight with her, but niggle at her.
Exactly. There was one thing she did that he felt deeply insulted by, and all he did was voice stoic protest and get a little express a little anger, but he was seething inside. And like a talented actor could easily pull this off, where like show a character that they're not showing much on their face, but inside they are raging. They're not going to do that here, of course. Just
This is how you were feeling. Why?
Yes.
Why?
But I was like, we were just talking about how emotional they're making Lan. We just jump to a random scene. There you go. There you go.
We have a rider arriving, which tended to be the start of book 3, that she was getting all these messages from different people, but it was always women. And so this was their way of just introducing Bail Doman, because he was supposed to be introduced in book 1.
Yes.
And so he's therefore supposed to be in season 1, but they've introduced him now here.
Oh, but they introduced another very important character here. Do you recognise who this woman is? Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. You wouldn't recognise who this woman is because she doesn't look like her at all. But do you remember who they say she is?
I just...
You have a blank face. I love it because this is one of your favourite characters.
Is that supposed to be Varen?
That's Varen. I love it that they even name her in the episode.
I didn't actually hear any names. I just assumed it was the Aes Sedai she was supposed to be visiting in book 2.
In book 2, Moraine visits 2 kind of retired Aes Sedai, and I love that this is so different to Varen. You didn't even register it was her.
No, I had no idea this was supposed to be Varen.
Because she acts nothing like her.
No.
Like, just even here, like this character is talking about, oh, so-and-so needs to be better, do better. This character is, I guess, socially aware, you could say, and emotionally empathetic, you could say. 2 qualities that Varen is not.
No.
Varen is a oblivious bookworm that oftentimes is completely oblivious to the world around her and only seems to wake up. And then she has these great moments of exceptionally keen insight based on her research. And if it's an area that she has studied, she is switched on and she figures things out. But other than that, she's usually a bit oblivious.
And sometimes she'll act more oblivious.
Yes.
She's not acting oblivious at all. Varen is supposed to act oblivious even when she's not, and then suddenly come out with a one-liner that you're like, oh, hold on, what? You're paying attention? This
character is not Varen. It is Varen only by name. And of course, they've changed her description. And they do that with a number of characters. Look, at least Bail Doman looked somewhat recognizable. This is not recognizable to Varen in any way. It's an insult. And so, yeah, Varen is introduced. I still love that you didn't even recognize it.
No.
Then they introduced Bail Doman. And I think they did a mostly all right job. I pictured him with thicker kind of jowls. Is that what they're called? Jowls on the side? Like a bigger beard.
Like sideburn type things?
Yeah. But okay, it's not terrible, but this isn't a big compliment because so few characters actually done with any level of, I guess, respect to what they are supposed to look like. All right, so now we introduce with Egwene. And in terms of the editing of this sequence, I actually thought it was well done. Establishing where she is. Of course, it is boring. She's just cleaning, basically. But it establishes she's at the White Tower, though there are some really odd things, and we see it right here. Who's the green with the two waters?
Lyanna.
Egwene is cleaning up, and Lyanna's having a threesome just in the background because that enhances the episode. Am I right, my dear? Like, genuinely, why put this in apart from stupid, pointless sex and trying to promote threesomes? There's literally a scene later on where Lyanna describes how to get Lyanna describes how to get into a threesome, how to enjoy it. Like that's important plot things. We're gonna cut things from the book to really emphasize that. No point at all, and it just shows that I think, by the way, because I think there is a purpose that you can use sex in a story that actually is important in the plot. They did it in House of the Dragon actually really well. The sex in House of the Dragon has very significant importance in the plot of that story. Here, this is just some guy trying to, I guess, get off and promote his kinks. Rafe Judkins has said that. He says, like, he's interested in exploring polyamorous relationships and stuff in the show, just because, again, it's his kink. Yeah, you don't need this, and it frustrates me because the books handled sex and stuff like that really modestly. There's even nudity in the books, but they handled it very modestly as well. And they throw it in because Egwene, they're trying to show that she's really prudish here. Doesn't work because at the season 1, episode 1, she's just having a whole banging rant, right? She's not a virgin. This isn't like, foreign concepts to her. In the books, of course, a lot of the Emmonsfielders were very prudish because they had not been experienced to all that, any of that. And then this reaction probably would make more sense. Here, it's like, no, you've already established that she's exposed to, exchanges, I guess you could say. And it comes off as disingenuous. You're trying to pull something back from the book that you already contradicted, so get lost.
This whole scene was just basically annoying.
What did you find annoying about it?
So first, Nynaeve's not supposed to be accepted.
Yep.
She's supposed to be accepted, not a novice.
She's not supposed to be a novice, that's correct.
And they've been here 5 months. She was pretty much accepted after the first day
as soon as, basically, a day or so after she arrives, she gets put through the test pillars to be accepted. I have a feeling that they're delaying that so they can put her and Egwene's thing going through. I'm not necessarily, I guess, annoyed with this change. It's like, yeah, maybe. What annoys me is that now they're trying to say she has a block. Whereas before they were kind of trying, because there were moments where Nynaeve channeled and she wasn't angry. It was pretty darn clear in season 1.
But they're not saying that anger is her block here, just that she has one. Which sort of comes up.
I guess.
And so they haven't really addressed the anger block. But they're also making Egwene more like Nynaeve and stubborn and not doing things, rather than doing everything to try to touch the source, be able to do some things. Like, she's not being cooperative, whereas she was trying really hard in her lessons and was making progress.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they try and acknowledge the anger block when it's the scene with the Liandrin, the scene that they stole from Swan, and she says, "Now you're angry," and that's when that Nynaeve channels.
Then she just tells her to use her anger and not that there's more than one way to touch the source. Mm-hmm. She doesn't say, "This is your block." She's saying, "You don't have to be calm and touch the flower. You can get angry and do it." That's not the same thing as saying that this is your block.
You're right. They're not being specific about it. They're just saying she has a block. And so they have this scene. I forget who. Is that the threesome lady again or someone else? I don't know. But she calls the accepted in and tries to get them to do...
Novices.
Novices, sorry. Try to get them to do a fairly complex weave, purifying water. Novices... They can barely create glowing balls of light. Like the purpose of novices is still learning how to embrace the source reliably. And as soon as you can do that, you're almost ready to be trained to, pushed into being an accepted at that point. And so, look, this just felt too advanced, based on what they show in the books. But then they have this thing where she's basically saying you have to drink this dirty, manky glass of water by the end of the day, and you have to purify it with the weave, otherwise you have to drink it manky, right? And Egwene, she starts to embrace, she has trouble, but Nynaeve, she can't even embrace the power here. And then Nynaeve does something here that strikes me as profoundly out of character for her. So Nynaeve is stubborn to a fault, to many faults, okay? And so I could see her doing something to spite an Aes Sedai, absolutely. The other thing is, though, Nynaeve is incredibly arrogant. And she, like, to demean herself in front of people she loathes, she would rather die.
Than say that she can't do something.
And also, yeah, to demean herself. And so to drink manky, gross water, right? Just to, like, to me, this is something, I felt like this was something that Nynaeve would never do, to debase herself because of an Aes Sedai to that level. She hates Aes Sedai, especially, at this point, she really hates them, right? And so she gets humiliated and she fumes about, like, when she gets punished by the Mistress of Novice area, like, she can't stand being embarrassed and stuff like that. And so this felt out of character for me. I was just like, do you understand this character when she does it? Because what she does, instead of forcing herself to be embarrassed by trying to embrace the source, which, this is the thing, that would make her angry, which would make her able to embrace the source, and she'd do it, right? But instead of that, doing something that's true to her character, she forcefully drinks the manky water just to spite the Aes Sedai.
Like, if this was an actual scene in the book, I could actually picture it of her trying and an Aes Sedai trying to force feed it to her getting angry and force feeding it to the Aes Sedai.
Exactly. She would be so resistant that would be the key to make her angry, because the Aes Sedai would be forcing her. And so I just like...
In book 1, well, at the start of book 2, they figure out her block straight away, and they are basically torturing the poor girl to make her angry to do it. She's been there 5 months, and they haven't figured out that they need to make her angry.
It's actually kind of funny, the things that they do to try and break her block, and she hates it all. She finds it all demeaning, and she gets insulted. She hates the Aes Sedai even more as a result. And so, again, being forced to drink this manky water versus channeling, she would be fuming at even the implication of it. But they don't understand the characters. And so now they're talking about Nynaeve, and this is where they really build her up, where she's so powerful. And Liandrin is there like, oh, tell her how to do, you guys don't know what you're doing. We're introduced to another character.
Yes, this is supposed to be Shiriam.
This is supposed to be Shiriam.
Mistress of Novices. She's in charge of the training of all the novices and the disciplining of them.
Did they read the books? Like, seriously? This isn't even an attempt to depict Shiriam. Shiriam is described as having flame red hair and Asian features, okay? With tilted eyes and cheekbones. I'm correct, aren't I?
Yes, and she's supposed to have, a little bit of weight to her, but still sharp cheekbones, fiery red hair, and, the ageless features. This is not her.
It's unrecognizable. There's not even an attempt to depict Shiriam here. It's just frustrating.
Though I can understand them putting in Liandrin so early on, because you don't get to see her until a bit later, and this kind of establishes her as a character that you hate already.
Yeah.
That she's horrible. And so they actually included a few scenes that she wouldn't normally be in, and I can understand why they've inserted her there.
And so this is, Liandrin just saying, let me talk to her. I will just talk, because you guys aren't doing any good. Finally find Perrin. Perrin is just, and then Loyal is like, it's perfectly fine. This is where Loyal is introduced. Well, remember, last time we saw him, he was stabbed with the dagger, looking to be completely dead. They don't even mention the injury. They just ignore it completely. They're all fine now. Great way to build up suspense. This is going to make me really... look, I'm already checked out because this show is dog crap, right? But any people that is trying to get invested in this show, someone gets injured, supposedly dead. Like, you faked out some serious, significant deaths. You showed Uno and Inktar dead. You showed Nynaeve dead. You showed Loyal dead, right? These are 4 significant dead moments. And they're fine. They're just back. It's like, who gives us stuff now? You're gonna, as soon as you try and kill anyone now, we just thought, what, are you gonna bring them back? You will if you want to now. It doesn't mean spip, okay? Frustrating as anything. And it's particularly frustrating because it's so disingenuous. Like they showed a close-up of the dagger in Loyal's heart. Oh, and by the way, Loyal still looks awful. This is not what an Ogier looks like. It's just...
I know, where's his ears?
Yeah, exactly. Where's his big mouth? And like, they should have done practical effects, like a full, thing. But budget constraints. Well, I wonder where... This is Amazon. Where is the budget going here, right? They have the budget to make Trolloc faces and stuff like that. That means they could have made an actual proper-looking Ogier face. Like, it's not Loyal at all. Loyal is supposed to look... This looks like a weird human. He's supposed to look so inhuman that people think he's a Trolloc at times and freak out. Okay? And he's also supposed to be taller. It's just frustrating. And so...
So we find out that they are hunting for the horn and that there is a tracker.
Yes, a tracker. And you think that they're referring to the sniffer. I forget his
Huron,
name. Huron, yes.
Yes.
Well, we're introduced to another character.
Oh, look, there's Ingtar and Uno looking just fine.
Oh, yeah, Ingtar and Uno. Not a problem. They're just fine. So the tracker that they finally meet, here is the tracker. The only thing that gives him away as to who this is supposed to be is the yellow eyes.
And his name, of course.
And, well, if you didn't hear his name, this is Elias. We are finally introduced to Elias. Not how I pictured him.
He's supposed to be on his own,
not
around people.
He was never described with dark skin, was he? Like, am I going crazy?
I don't think it specified his skin, and just that he had once been a warder. He travelled with no human company, except for that brief time when he was with Perrin and Egwene and the Tinkers. And now we've got him as a tracker.
And so... I think they have gotten rid of Huron. I think Elias is now going to replace Huron's role, and then that's going to give enough interaction between Perrin and Elias to actually have Perrin some of his story actually progress. So
we're back at Doman.
Doman and Moraine. More talking. And this time they're talking about stuff that, like, it has very little significance in the overall plot. She's, I think, like, Doman... trying to sell her Quaindia and then a note. And we'll get to that because there's a separate scene with Lan being moody. Engaging stuff. Back to Moraine. She's holding the Quaindia. And then Bale...
There's talk of a poem.
A poem.
Which I'm assuming is supposed to be like the one that was written on the wall in the cell.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking it is. So in the books, Pardon Fane is captured. Okay, and dark friends help him escape. And captured at Falmer. No, not Falmer. Borderlands. I forget the city.
China,
somewhere in China. He's captured, and dark friends help him escape. And it was such a good build-up because, like, Egwene goes to talk with Pardon Fane, and she remarks how the jailers had been really nice, and basically she notes how they've been slowly getting corrupted in Pardon Fane's presence, and you learn that he has this corrupting influence and power over people. That would have been a great little scene to have in. But anyway, he escapes, slaughters those guards, and writes like a message in blood on the wall meant for Rand. And it was, we shall meet in Tomon Head. Okay, and so that lets them know where Pardon Fane is going, and it's this big chase, the book 2, the great hunt, and all that. It's a key bit of plot. Maybe they're like, is this note going to be from Pardon Fane? I don't know, but anyway, so it goes on for a while, and it's just there to show how they're trying to say Moraine's clever. See how clever she is. More talking though. Okay,
and then she finds out about 2 black cloaked horsemen following him, and she's like, get out of here fast as you can, as far away as you can.
But you know what?
It doesn't give him any more information.
It tells him to run. What that would also mean, that I would be pretty concerned about, is that these are fades. These aren't just dark friends, okay? Fades are like really bad and really tough to beat. And the books are very consistent about how difficult they are to beat, right? And so Moraine now knows that at least 2 Fades have been following Bail Doman. But Bail Doman just met with a woman? And if these Fades have any ability to learn any information, 3 women, 2 warrior-looking, clearly they're Aes Sedai. And so, Moraine, you've just learned that 2 Fades have learned where you are because they were following Bail Doman. Bail Doman came to you. That means the Fades have learned where you are. So, do you then think that running off in the middle of the night alone would be a good idea?
It wouldn't be my first instinctual reaction.
You would be like, holy crap, we probably have 2 Fades near us.
Maybe we should all evacuate.
Yeah, or go hunt for them or something like that. But no, later on in the episode, Moraine, big brain Moraine, decides to run off on her own and leave everyone. And she can't channel, she's completely vulnerable, and she's going to leave on her own while knowing that there are 2 Fades nearby. And wouldn't you know it, she gets attacked by Fades. So yeah, this scene is all there to establish how smart Moraine is when, no, like you've been too oblivious to a really obvious thing that makes her look incredibly stupid. Well done. Well done. Nynaeve. All right. This one actually pissed me off. It's a big sign that they do not know these characters, okay? They fundamentally do not know the characters of the Wheel of Time. Nynaeve hates swords. She hates violence. She abhors it. It is a big crucial point to her character. There's a moment where she has to heal someone in book 3 and she gets really ticked off due to the senseless violence. She's trying to heal an Aiel, and it's just the senseless violence that gets her angry enough to heal this person because she's just like, men and their bloody swords and their bloody fighting and you stupid Aiel, and it gets her there. And by the way, in the books, I have no problem with the female characters getting annoyed with men, because guess what? There is equal balance with men getting annoyed with women, with doing silly things that women stereotypically do, just like there are silly things that men stereotypically do, because the books are really well written and really well balanced. So far from actually, hating swords, they have Nynaeve training with them, training with the warders. Not only training, she's really good at it.
Apparently.
She's not even going to need a warder when she's an Aes Sedai. Oh my gosh.
If she knew one of the women was training with the warders, she'd be like, what for?
Exactly.
Do men think with the hair on their chest? What would you need to do that for? You have the power. Don't be an idiot.
Yes. And so, big point and proof right here that I've been saying all along, they do not understand this series. They do not understand the characters. People making this, right? And what's frustrating here is that, the books have a good balance. They're honest and realistic. And yeah, girls, women, they're not that good at fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Hence why they need warders. But, oh no, the male characters, they're going to be cowards. They're thrust to the sidelines in this show. The women are amazing. They're going to be great at everything. They have magical powers and everything. And now we're going to throw on top of them, when it comes to fighting, well, Nynaeve, why? She's so good at it. She's going to be a kick-butt sword fighter as well. And Moraine, she's going to kill a bloody Fade with a dagger. Because they're amazing, right? They are so, desperate and afraid. So they're desperate to make these female characters amazing, and they're afraid of giving them honest, realistic weaknesses, that they're making them into Mary Sues. Now, I'm not saying that they're 100% that they don't fail. They do fail at parts in the show, right? But they're doing things that are so unrealistic and contrary to their characters. There's no way at all that Moraine, the correct Moraine, true to the books, would be able to kill a Fade with a dagger without having the power, okay? Come off it. Moraine is like a really short woman and she doesn't know how to fight hand to hand. And Nynaeve, even though she might get a dagger and she has some feisty thing, she hates swords and she thinks fighting is pointless. And so anyway, I was starting to really get annoyed with it. But anyway, they don't care. This shows how much they understand the books. A lot. And so they're basically trying to say to her, you don't need swords. She should already know this, right? And then she goes, where's Egwene? And Egwene, she's actually gone to speak with
Liana.
Okay, and this is the thing where this is the scene where they explain to you how to enjoy a threesome. Really crucial, important stuff to devote an entire scene to, wouldn't you say, my dear?
Oh yes, and great teaching for the novice that's come asking for help.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point to this. The only point is that this is the showrunner getting off in promoting one of his kinks. Okay? All right, and so there we have it. And it does try to establish that Egwene's having trouble with working with multiple weaves. It's not really an important plot point. I wonder if it'll come up later. It's an excuse to have her approach Liana to promote what the show is really invested in, the creators. Okay, so here is a scene that they steal from the Amyrlin. This should have been Siuan's scene. It happened originally in the books when they're on the boat towards Tar Valon, and it is one of the scenes where the Amyrlin says, "Swords are useless. You've got the power. Okay, you don't need a man, or you could manhandle a man." Now, I'm not opposed to giving this scene to Liandrin here because it does suit her character to be so aggressive.
So this was the part where I didn't mind Liandrin actually taking on the role of somebody else because it established her better and gave Nynaeve a stronger dislike for her. Yeah,
this is what I guess what I can acknowledge when a change, I'm not against all changes, when a change can actually work. This one mostly works with Liandrin here. Oh, look, you lose some of the no-nonsense attitude that a lot of the Aes Sedai have, and Siuan especially, because that scene does establish Siuan as no-nonsense and sticking it to Nynaeve here. But I'm talking about the book's version of this scene. And the book version is really important because Nynaeve kind of gets that, where it shows that Nynaeve can learn a weave just by looking at it. That's a really significant talent she has. And also, what she does, she pins Siuan to the wall in the book. But then Siuan shields her, but now instead she's pinning Liandrin. And so it plays out mostly the same as the book, except with a different character. Yeah.
And the main difference, apart from, the different character, is that it's not establishing that her block is anger. It's just telling her that you don't have to be calm to use the power. Yeah. You can use it aggressively.
Yeah. Yeah. So, not the worst thing. I think that one mostly worked. Back to Perrin. Here we are. Okay, this line.
Okay, we definitely have thoughts on this scene.
Yeah, this is... Okay, so... First of all, do the people making the show do they not know how to dig a proper deep grave? Did you notice how shallow these graves were? They're not even underground. And so animals will just dig that up and have a feast of the corpses. So then there is this exchange between Inktar and Perrin. And Inktar says that all men deserve a proper burial. If you read the books, you would know why Inktar is saying that. And I think, okay, that's subtle enough. I can kind of go with that, right? But then he says something, because Perrin talks about Paran Fain, and that Paran Fain, that man let people into Shinar. Hundreds of people died, right? And then Inktar says something. There's a moment where Perrin says he's afraid of the rage building inside of him, and he says it really calmly. It's like, you sound angry there, Perrin.
And he's blaming Paran Fain for all of it, but hasn't acknowledged once through that whole montage of I am angry, say, I let him get away. Mm-hmm. It's all he came in, earned our trust, and then all these people are dead. You let him walk away with the horn and the dagger. You didn't try to stop him. You stood there and did nothing.
Yeah. Okay. This line here. Paran Fain murdered in cold blood lots of people. Technically, he murdered you, Inktar, even though he came back alive. He was there. And his response to that from Inktar is perhaps Fain had a reason. What's the type of person that would try and excuse a murderer, a dark friend? Perhaps they had a reason. It's If you're paying attention, this basically lets you know what's happening behind the scenes for Inksar, which just is it ruins his arc and the reveal later on. I mean, good job. Yeah, good job. That's a way to hide things, isn't it there, Inktar? Perhaps he had a reason. This horrible murdering psychopath. Did you pick up on that? I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also noticed that Perrin's only reason for following Paranfane is revenge. Because in the book, it's all to help Matt because the dagger's been stolen and he needed it to be able to survive. And so all of a sudden, his whole storyline in this now is revenge, and I'm angry even though I'm standing here like a stone. He's showing less emotion than Lan.
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. Again, when he says, I have this rage building inside, he says it really calmly. It's like, yeah, you really look angry there, mate. Oh my gosh. They're reading the letter from Perrin now. And they're desperate to make you care about these characters. What reason, really, have you given us to care about them? And so at the moment, it's just more talking. And have you seen how much talking and not much happening has been happening in this episode? So then we can't actually see Matt, and he's being tortured by Leandrin. So that's all thanks to Moraine. Remember Moraine? She, at the end of the season 1, she sent a letter, let the Red Archer know that there's a dangerous person, Matt Coffin and everything. I don't even recognize this guy as Matt. It's the new actor, by the way, but nothing about him feels like Matt at all.
Well, he feels like the Matt of season 1, but he doesn't feel like the Matt of the books.
Yeah. And again, there's they made Matt in the show a particularly loathsome character here. So why do we give a crap about him?
And so Leandrin here somehow has a copy or the version of the letter from Perrin and selectively reads parts that exclude Matt to make him feel bad and that these friends don't care, but for no obvious purpose.
So what I think is happening here, Moraine said that there is something evil and dark inside Matt, all right? Which is a vile vilification of Matt's character. And by the way, Matt didn't really show too many signs of that. He showed the corrupting influence of the dagger, but he was basically healed of that in season 1. They separated the dagger from him. Here he says he hasn't touched a dagger in 6 months. What is Moraine actually afraid of? She has no real reason to fear Matt, but supposedly she is so afraid that she sicked the Red Archer onto him. And so now the Red Archer have him because they think Matt is so dangerous, and Leandrin is just torturing him because he's supposedly evil. Feels real justified. Not. And here is the only scene that even shows Rand is a character in this show still.
And so I'm presuming he's putting a lantern up for his mum.
I guess.
Everybody else, to his knowledge, is alive.
Yeah. This is literally all we see of Rand in the entire episode. The most pivotal, important character in the series, by the way, if you don't know. The Dragon Reborn. Yeah. So in the book, Rand was hunting Paranfane with Perrin and Matt. Okay, there was still a group of 3 friends, really interesting stuff was happening. Now, 5 months has passed, there's no real significant, serious hunt apart from Perrin doing whatever. There's no urgency. And the fact that no one cares about what he is doing, Rand is doing, the Dragon Flippin' Reborn, is insane. It's like...
You would think Moraine, of all people, would care, but she's not showing any interest because she knows that he's alive.
Yeah.
Nobody else does. But she's not doing anything to track him or anything.
And is this why they shaved his head? Because he's trying to hide his identity now, you reckon? Because I hate that they've shaved his head. He doesn't look like Rand now. And so...
No idea.
But that's it. That's all we see of Rand. It's done now. And now we see a scene eating and talking. This episode is so boring, right? It's just boring, bland people talking about their feelings and with only one mild, unjustified and caused by stupidity action scene at the end is the episode. And so this is what's her face again?
Varen.
Varen being very I guess emotionally insightful. She's not
giving advice.
Giving advice on how
And basically telling him, this isn't all about you, right?
Yeah.
That she has lost the power and her bond, and maybe you should be more considerate. Oh, really?
Yeah, Varen would, because she can give advice, but she would be like, stereotypically, we've found that most wars, when they do this, are having this type of effect. There was a time when this Aes Sedai, a few hundred years back, also did this thing with the water. Perhaps you could try, and then she explained something really unhelpful and probably inappropriate about, you should try this to see if it helps out. And then be looking at, thanks, Varen. That would be Varen. But,
yes.
And so, basically they say, you need to think about Moraine more. You're being selfish, Lan, okay? And so he learns that he was in the wrong here, Lan. And so before he said he wasn't going to take the food to Moraine when Moraine asked for it. And so learning from his mistakes, because he's a toxic man, of course, he grabs the food to take it up to Moraine. But she's not there. Moraine is not there. And, she's sneaking off in the middle of the night.
Again.
After she learnt that there's 2 Fades, most likely knowing of her location, right? Anyway. And because she's the show is trying to justify it. No, the Fades were obviously chasing Bael Doman. Even though Bael Doman met with 3 Aes Sedai and gave some important information to them, the point is, Fades would be vastly more concerned about what Aes Sedai are doing over a random ship captain, okay? And so it's blatantly obvious, and Moraine should know this, that, you've got Fades nearby. What are you doing, you silly woman?
And she's at her most vulnerable. She doesn't have the power anymore, and she leaves the one person that can keep her alive in most situations. And just is like, I'm just going to leave him. He will protect me till his last breath, and I'm going to leave him behind and be a little weakling by myself. What?
It's unbelievable. And ready? This is it. So Moraine, she's like...
Though, I'm going to interrupt briefly. I did appreciate how they had it appear and disappear out of shadows.
Yeah.
They did do the merger quite well in that. This is the first time they've kind of shown it appear and disappear through shadow.
But would Moraine have the, deep insight and ability to perceive a Fade appearing out of a shadow behind her, the most subtle kind of movement, and she has this battle sense around her that because this is it right here. She's looking around. Where'd the Fade go? She can't see it. Okay, and then bang, she killed. It's like I was just like, come.
Yeah, it's just gone through its mouth. You can see it.
Yeah, exactly. This wouldn't kill a Fade at all. It didn't even go into the brain. You see it just sticking through the jaw.
Fades can have dozens of arrows sticking out of them and still be fighting.
Their bodies literally keep trying to fight after you decapitate them.
Yes.
They do eventually die from decapitation, but they're so...
Not until, sundown the next day.
Oh, really?
It's a whole day, pretty much.
Take that long?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And they just kind of let them wither on the floor eventually.
But look, the Fade is like, you got me. And ready? It just drops dead. That did it. Wow, killing Fades are a lot easier than, this show. Okay, so then a Fade does eventually come. And by the way, the Moraine gets slashed across the gut with a Fade's sword here. As okay, she's dead, unless she gets immediate healing. Fade's swords, right? They're cursed. They are made through murder. Okay, they are made in this.
Their final
dark
quenching is to murder somebody.
Yeah, their final quenching of the hot blade is you have to kill someone and you literally skewer them through. Right, women, children. That's how the final quenching of a Fade's blade. So these things are evil in the extreme, and as a result, getting cut by them. You're screwed unless you have magical healing. Look, there are 2 Aes Sedai nearby. They're going to say they're trying to fake out a death here, but no, the Aes Sedai will heal them. But something else happens that I find extremely out of character. Again, they don't understand this show. They don't understand the characters, right? And it's related to the swords. So at this moment, right, when she gets cut, I'm just sitting there going, yeah, okay, Lan's obviously going to come and save her life. There's no suspense here. It is so blatantly obvious. I'm just thinking, now I'm just waiting for Lan to appear, which of course he does. Lan appears and starts fighting him off, but then he kills one of the Fades, right? And then he does something here, which I was just like, piss off. No, don't even. He picks up the Fade's cursed blade and starts using it. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? That thing is vile and evil to the extreme. Lan would not even want to touch it, let alone pick up and use the thing. Oh, come off it. But no, so Lan picks up a Fade's blade, and then underwhelming fight scene. I was like, at first I was thinking they better not have Lan like defeat several Fades. Like, is this badass? Like, I know Lan is a badass, right? But killing multiple Fades on his own, nah. Fades are really tough to kill. Thankfully, they actually have him basically get defeated. He still takes out a couple. He gets cut up by him, and so he should be dead without magical healing. And when he starts getting cut up, now I'm thinking, okay, so now we're just waiting for Lan and Moraine to be saved by the other two Aes Sedai. They're just going to come in and save him. Like, off-screen Deus Ex Machina said, you know what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happens. They want to try and fake out, aren't you worried they're going to die? It's like, no, you're not going to kill them. We know that you're just going to try to fake us out. This scene doesn't really have any significance in the plot. It's just there to try and like, well, they probably realize this episode is really boring. We need something exciting to happen. No, we'll just throw some Fades, attack Moraine because she was stupid and left on her own.
And so it's kind of like the scene in the book, where it's one of those flying bat things that draws her in, the Drakkar.
But you know what's important about that scene? It introduces the Drakkar.
Yes.
Okay, that's why that scene is important. And we learned that, oh, there are some other crazy, evil and powerful monsters that the Dark
And
One
she's
has.
not trying to take off on her own after hearing about Fades.
Yeah, she's not doing anything stupid.
Just walking around at night time.
She's staying in a little cottage. She decides to go outside of the cottage, she's literally in the garden outside of the cottage to go for a walk, and there's a winged bat evil monster there.
And it like croons to her and like hypnotizes her, right?
Exactly, that's what they
But it makes sounds that draws the attention of the other inhabitants.
Yes.
Lan comes and attacks. The other water comes, the Aes Sedai come. They come because they hear it.
Exactly. Like, this scene here, the Fade's actually being really quiet. What tips them off? And guess what? The water bond is broken. So Lan should have no idea where Moraine is or that she's in danger.
The only ones that should be coming is that water and the Aes Sedai because they can sense Darkspawn. They should be the only ones that have any idea, but somehow Lan's there first, almost dead, and then they come.
And they can't always sense Darkspawn either because the Drakkar gets the drop on her and in the books. And
yes.
So, but you knew that was going to happen. And so now they're trying to fake out their deaths. It's like, you don't have the guts. You do stupid things, but it's not out of, bravery and doing something interesting or different. No, that you do stupid things because you think you can do better than Robert Jordan. And so, pathetic fake out. And that's it. That is episode 1 of season 2 of Wheel of Time. And there is ridiculously stupid things in this episode, and it goes to show you this is the same people making this show. Same incompetent people. They do not know the books, they do not know the source material, and they disdain it, they're changing things, they're doing their own thing. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I just always get sad when it's the characters that get butchered. I can understand needing to rearrange things to make it work. Like, like I said, Leandrin doing the training with Nynaeve kind of training. I can understand things like that, but changing the crucial part of somebody's character to do what you want to do is making it not faithful to the original of what people love. And
it also shows arrogance and entitlement. They think they can do better. And it's like, no, this is a beloved property with a huge fan base, okay? And this is someone else's work. You don't have the right, okay, to crap on someone else's legacy, right? You need to respect it. You need to approach it the same way that Peter Jackson approached Lord of the Rings, and it's such a great line. There's an interview with Peter Jackson. He says, we didn't come into this wanting to tell our own stories or send out or tell our own messages. No. We actually wanted to tell Tolkien's story and the messages he had in the book, all right? And now it was all about respecting Tolkien. And guess what? There are some really significant messages in the books that the people making this show, they think are problematic. They actually think it's vile and evil. Certain messages in the book, that's the level of disdain they have in this. And they avoid and just pretend it's not even there. like the fundamental gendered nature of the power. And also, I wonder, do you think they'll even ever... I think that they won't even have the guts to acknowledge the gendered nature of the power, let alone the different way that you need to approach the power to use it, because I think they'll find that really problematic. How it is in the books, for women to use the female side of the power, they must submit to it. It's all about submission. The female, behavior and way that they need to approach power is to submit to it. Okay.
And it's very much gentle and calm and peaceful kind of connection.
Yes. And men, to use the power, they need to battle it. They need to fight with it and wrestle it constantly for control. Okay. That is significant because Robert Jordan, he understood men and women. You get really clear by how he wrote the characters. He wrote women really authentically and he wrote men really authentically. It comes from a wise, perceptive person, all right? And so there are subtle kind of symbolisms like that in the book about the nature of men and women. They're not going to have the balls to even go close to that. Not only that, that's the type of stuff that they hate. They do not love the source material. They think that stuff is problematic. And if it's problematic, that means it's bad, all right? So no, they don't respect this stuff. And Season 2, Episode 1, par for the course. But we're not done. Well, we're done for this review, but not for the season. We have more episodes coming, all right? And so, well, Episode 2 will be coming out shortly. I hope to see you there. And until then, stay on watch.